So recently I was on the Playback Sessions podcast with my friends over at Carter Vintage Guitars, and we did a big lesson diving into some different ideas and concepts for playing the blues. One of the things that came up in our conversation was how I used diminished arpeggios over dominant chords. And this is something I've talked about a lot on this channel, but I think it's a good idea to break this concept down. So I want to give you a simple exercise for connecting chord tones together. And hopefully this will help you make the leap from learning arpeggios to actually turning them into music. Let's get into it. So the way I use diminished chords is the way many jazz musicians use diminished chords and arpeggios. You play a diminished chord over a functioning dominant chord to achieve a dominant 7 flat 9 sound. In a blues, you can use this when you go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. So if we're in the key of G and we want to go from G7, the 1 chord, to C7, the 4 chord, the simple trick is to find the major third of G7, 1, 2, 3, which is the note B, and play a diminished 7th chord from that note. Now, if you're new to diminished chords, all you have to do is go up the fretboard in minor thirds. So from B, up to D, up to F, and up to A flat. This will give you the major third, the perfect 5th, the flat 7, and the flat 9 in the key of G. And you can use this diminished chord as a passing chord to get from G to C7. Now, diminished 7th chords are symmetrical because they're made of a series of minor thirds. So this B diminished 7th chord is the same as a D diminished, an F diminished, or an A flat diminished, and all these chords function the same way. Now, this is really useful when it comes to making lines from these diminished 7th arpeggios, because we can take the same simple patterns and shapes and move them symmetrically up and down the fretboard. The only real trick is we have to resolve this diminished sound when we land on the 4 chord. So I want to show you a simple exercise. Since our B diminished arpeggio has 4 notes, B, D, F, and A flat. And our C7 chord has 4 notes, C, E, G, and B flat. We can take a simple diminished arpeggio pattern and move it up the fretboard and resolve it to the 4 notes of a C7 chord. So this first pattern I played starts on a B note and plays up a B diminished 7th arpeggio and then resolves to G, which is the 5th of our C7 chord. The second pattern I played starts on D, goes up a D diminished arpeggio, and then resolves to B flat, which is the flat 7 of a C7. The third pattern starts on F, goes up an F diminished arpeggio, then resolves down a whole step to C, which is the root of our C7 chord. And the final pattern starts here on A flat and resolves down a half step to E, which is the major third of our C7 chord. Now, there's tons of ways we can incorporate this exercise into our lines. So here's 4 examples of some simple lines moving through these 4 different positions. All right, guys, so if you'd like tabs and notation for this lesson or any of my lessons on YouTube, head over to my Patreon site. I'm going to leave you guys with a little solo. I'm going to play over a G blues, and I'm going to use some of these diminished ideas every time we go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. So until next time, happy practicing and take care.